Welcome to our 5th annual Recovery Remembrance Walk. 5 years. That's a half a decade of walking, remembering, hugging, and healing. Today, we walk in remembrance. We carry the names, the stories, and the love for those that we've lost. And we do it with purpose and with heart. Every step is a tribute. It's just our way of saying you matter, you're still with us, and you still matter. We also walk in celebration, our recovery, resilience, the kind of coverage that doesn't always get a parade, but damn, it absolutely deserves one.
Post-walk activities upon your return, enjoy the food, explore the resource tables, and participate in activities like badminton, ping pong, and cornhole. We also have some amazing speakers today, and once we come back from the walk, we will certainly have those speakers come up. We'll introduce them, and you'll get to hear their amazing stories. All right, who's ready for this walk?
It is an honor to share this space with you today at this 5th annual Recovery Remembrance Walk. As you heard mentioned in my bio, there's a couple of different points of my life at which I've had the opportunity to be in collaboration, be in mourning with those who have been struggling through their recovery, right? Been struggling through addiction. As a family member, as somebody who represented individuals who were finding themselves at a really tough place, as somebody who in the legislature and as Attorney General, I have been working with others to try to find ways to support appropriate interventions to make sure that those who are struggling, for those families who are helping work through issues, that there could be something meaningful to support them, because that has not always been how our state is. In coming over today, I was appreciative of learning that in this community, you are one of the more advocative communities for those who find themselves in need, for those who are struggling with an addiction, for those who have family members who are struggling. And so if I can just offer this to you, I have a family member who, he still does not identify that he had struggled. He is the kind of person that others in my time in the legislature might have said didn't deserve a second chance. Thank God he got a second chance. Thank God there was a community around him to help support his recovery. He literally saves lives today in the work that he does. And so even though he doesn't necessarily tell his story, it is just one anecdote that I have in my life that has reaffirmed for me that I need to show up for those that want to make sure that they can work through recovery, that they can find a way to support their family, that they can be the community member that makes sure they turn out at events like this to support those who are on their path to recovery, both today and for lifelong. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, let me add something else. I also want to reflect that, we have all experienced somebody who has not made it. As a criminal defense attorney, as somebody in the legislature, I have had one of the last voicemails that somebody's going to leave. I have worked with individuals who, thank God, there was Narcan available so that we could find a different way for them to move forward. These all leave indelible marks. Certainly for me, I'm sure for all of you, that motivate us to come together at walks like this, contemplate how we can be compassionate, contemplate how we can be understanding, contemplate how we can use whatever professional or personal roles we have to show up for those that need help, to recognize when we need help, and to recognize that recovery looks probably different for every single person. And recognizing that, take action and be supportive. Thank you all for letting me be a part of today. I took the walk. I had a great conversation with the chief. I want to highlight, by the way, when I talk about everybody showing up, it is a range, at least in my work, that I see people showing up, right? It's family members, it's community members, it's law enforcement, it's policymakers, it's those who provide counseling, it's friends, it's neighbors. Everybody is showing up. So I appreciate the opportunity to walk with some of you today. It was a good walk. I got my steps in, which is great. I took the easy way, so it was only a slight hill. So appreciate that option for those that plan this. And if you take nothing else from what I've been able to share with you today, I just hope that you will remember finding in me, in my office, in the work that we're doing. I hope you will find a collaborator, a partner, somebody who wants to be there to understand and be compassionate as we not only reflect on those who have come before us, but on those who all need us to show up to do the important work that recovery asks of us. So thank you for the time to share with you. I'm not kidding about that bio. I want to get it so I can put it up on my, yeah. But again, thank you all for the work that you're doing day in and day out to be supportive in your recovery. Let's celebrate that and remember that today. Thank you very much.
First, before I share this letter from Senator Susan Collins, I just want to thank every single individual here today. Truly, this could not happen without every single person committing themselves entirely to something like this. I want to thank the staff from Lake Region Recovery Center, the staff from Crooked River Counseling, Catherine, Tracy, Sheila, everyone involved who's been part of this. This is my third or fourth time coming to the Lakes Region Recovery Center's events. I've had the opportunity to assist them with a couple of federal agency issues, and it's always a pleasure to be able to assist. As Tracy discussed, I am a federal caseworker, so I resolve issues between federal agencies and constituents. If you would like to discuss any sort of issue with federal agencies, please feel free to come up to me. Now, with that out of the way, I'd like to share a congratulatory letter from Senator Susan Collins. Dear Tracy, I am pleased to extend my well wishes to the Lakes Region Recovery Center community on the 5th Annual Recovery Remembrance Walk. This event is a special opportunity to celebrate each person who has struggled with substance abuse or mental health challenges, to acknowledge these professionals who have worked to help others, to mourn those we have lost, and to support one another as we grieve together. I applaud your compassion and dedication. My thoughts are with you as you conduct the 5th Annual Recovery Remembrance Walk. Sincerely, United States Senator Susan M. Collins. Thank you all, and have a lovely day.
Good afternoon, everybody. This year I was asked to say a few words about Dr. Peter Leighton. Many of you worked with him, knew him. He was a driving force behind medication-assisted treatment and ensuring that people that had addiction problems were served with dignity and respect. So I get really nervous speaking in front of somebody, so I'm just going to read, and I might cry, just so you know. Thank you. Each year, as we gather for the Recovery Remembrance Walk, we pause to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Peter Leighton, a man whose unwavering dedication to addiction medicine and community healing continues to inspire us all. Dr. Leighton was more than a physician. He was a visionary, a healer, and a fierce advocate for those affected by substance use disorders. After returning to the Lakes region in 2013 to practice primary care, he quickly became the cornerstone of the recovery community here in Bridgton. In 2020, he earned double board certification in addiction medicine, a testament to his deep commitment to treating the whole person with dignity and compassion. Peter co-founded the Lakes Region Substance Awareness Coalition, which led to the creation of the Lakes Region Recovery Center, a place of hope, healing, and connection. He served as a medical advisor there and as the medical director at Crooked River Counseling, always championing evidence-based care and community support. Dr. Leighton passed away peacefully in his sleep on June 29, 2021, at the age of 48, after a long, courageous battle with a recurrent brain tumor. Though his physical presence is no longer with us, his spirit lives on in every life touched by the programs he helped build and the compassion he modeled. It is vital that each year, the Lakes Region Recovery Center continues to speak Dr. Leighton's name and share his story. His legacy reminds us that recovery is possible, that every person deserves respect and care, and that the community is the foundation of healing. By honoring him, we reaffirm our commitment to the values he held dear: hope, dignity, and service. As we gather here today, not only in remembrance, but in celebration of a life that made recovery more accessible, more humane, and more powerful for so many. I miss him dearly.
First of all, I want to give it up Lake Region Recovery. I mean, this is amazing. Good job. So first and foremost, my name's Randy Beard, and today I woke up with 6.5 years sobriety, being housed, and not being incarcerated ever again, hopefully. So 6.5 years ago, first of all, I'm a survivor of both substance use disorder, mental health issues, being unhoused since I was 12 years old, suicidal attempts, incarceration my entire life. My first felony was in 1987. My last felony was in 2019. So that's a little bit of drug history and criminal history. I was raised on the streets. I survived. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I did what I had to be able to support my own habit. There's people here I sold drugs to. There's people here I did drugs with. There's people here that I was incarcerated with. And to see those people here today just really moved me. So as my bio said, which was pretty amazing, in 2019, after a failed suicide attempt on my daughter's birthday, that's when my drugs took me. You know, where I was so low that I was willing to ruin my daughter's birthday for the rest of her life. I was going to commit suicide on her birthday. I gave myself a shot of pure fentanyl to commit suicide. A random person found me, and I'm just going to reach into my pocket to show how easily this is hidden. Does everybody know what this is? Narcan, naloxone. A random person found me dead beside the railroad tracks where I was homeless. He came up, very easy to use. You hold it like this, and you push this red button. That simple act saved my life. If you do that to somebody, the first thing you do if you come up to somebody who's overdosed and you give them Narcan, then you call 911. If they don't come around within 2 to 3 minutes, give them another dose. It's completely harmless. With today's drugs, xylazine and fentanyl, it don't work as quick, but it still does help. So first priority, give them Narcan, call 911, stay with them. This man stayed with me till the EMTs came. I was a street person, so I knew once I woke up that I could sign myself out of the ambulance, and I still had drugs on me. So I signed myself out of the ambulance, and when I did, there was a police officer there. And he said if I wasn't going to the hospital, I was going to jail. I went to jail and detoxed of a 36-year addiction in the med. I don't know how long I laid there in my own vial, and I didn't care. I didn't want to live. I wanted to die. And I eventually got put into population, and somebody that I ran the streets with came in, and I still didn't care. And he just started kicking me every morning. He said, get up, get up, get up. So slowly I started getting up, and then I started getting my head together, and it was like 6 months, and I still hadn't even gone to court. And I was like, why haven't I gone to court yet? And they said they were globalizing 36 years of charges, and when they found all the charges, they were going to let me out. I connected with my daughter, and my daughter the next day came and bailed me out. I was never there for my daughter. I bless her. She's my best friend now. But she showed up and bailed me out of jail that day. And I was put on probation, and a friend of mine died of laced antibodies with fentanyl in them. And we decided to have a celebration of life for him in one of the projects in Portland. And within a week, there was 4 of us who started. And within a week, we had 100 names of people who had passed away, and 400 people joined this Facebook group. So we decided to call it Recover Together. And we had a celebration of life for him that day, and that was on February 12th. And we decided to do a massive celebration on the Eastern Promenade on March 6th, which is National Black Balloon Day, which is to honor everybody who lost their lives to overdose. So within 3 weeks, we ended up with over 500 names and 2,000 people in this group. Everybody showed up. It was March 6th. It was like 10 degrees out. We had a cookout. A bunch of us jumped in the ocean. It wasn't a very normal thing to do, but it was very fun. And I met a woman named Courtney Gary Allen, who at the time it was called the Maine Recovery Advocacy Project. Now it's the Maine Recovery Action Project, and we have them as one of the tables over here with Tess Parks. She invited me, she heard my story, and she asked me to go to Vegas with her in like 2 weeks to go learn how to work on recovery. And I said, what are you, crazy? I'm a crackhead. I enjoy prostitutes, and I love gambling. That just don't make sense to me, and I'm early in recovery. She said she already bought my ticket. So regrettably, I ended up going there, and I learned some stuff there about how to make recovery fun and to make it so people want to be recovered and learn how to do things. Because when I was in active use, I didn't think I could have fun sober. You know, I didn't think anybody heard me. I didn't think anybody listened to me. And I learned a lot of stuff down there from a gentleman named Ryan Hampton, who is the national leader of the Recovery Advocacy Project. He actually sued the opiate people, the Oxycontin people, and he led that in the United States. And that's why Maine has all this money right now, because Maine got a huge grant because of that. He taught me how to become an advocate. So I worked with the Maine Recovery Action Project. I went and I fought for the Good Samaritan bill, which now if anybody's overdosing and you help them, regardless if you have a serious charge against a child, women, or murder type charges, you could still be arrested. But if not, if you say you're rendering aid and trying to save somebody's life, bottom line, they won't arrest you. You're there to save a life, bottom line. I helped fight for a bill where anybody in Maine who's incarcerated can get a free phone call once a week, because when I was incarcerated, I didn't have no money. So I couldn't call my daughter and say, you know, I'm not dead. She thought I was dead. She had come to the conclusion that I was dead in my tent, and she didn't hear from me for 6 months. So I got to call her because I helped fight for this bill. I'm just trying to show that no matter how low you are, you can get better. When I finally did get sober, I enrolled in college with my daughter. I took all criminal justice, mental health things, high-risk management classes. I graduated. I opened my first sober house where there were 7 men. Proud to say that all 7 of those men now are successfully continuing their journey. I just opened a second sober house in Lewiston, right in the heart of Lewiston on Bartlett Street, which is the front line that holds 18 men. And we have big plans for that place. We just opened it this week. Actually, my house manager is sitting right here in the front, Tank. I work at the Holistic Sober Center in Whitefield, where now I'm not selling drugs. Now I'm legally able to hand out drugs. I'm a CRMA. I'm a drug and counseling aide right now, waiting for my LADC. You know, people can change. You know, I sat there and I tried to figure it out last night. I've been in recovery now for about 6 years, a little over 6 years, but I've been working in recovery for 5 years. And I figured out that I put in about 30,000 hours in 5 years. That's 16 to 20 hours a day. You know, I did 2, 3 days, 4 days sometimes actively seeking and using drugs. I put that same effort into my recovery and helping the next person, because the first year I did this, I'm going to show you. So these are the names of almost 700 people who lost their life to overdose that family and friends sent me, and I will honor their names until I'm no longer here. They will never come off our hoodies, our T-shirts, our handkerchiefs, whatever we do, I will be their voice. I made a promise to all the families every year we would get louder. And by me showing up here today, I'm being the voice for those we've lost. I'm speaking for the ones who are fighting for it now, and I'm trying to change the future for the ones not born yet. And this all stems from that one man that found me and gave me that shot in Arcane that day. So my message to you today is just do what's right, and one person can change thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. Because this one man changed my life, and now I'm helping as many people as I can. So thank you, and have a great day.
So yes, 5 years. This is where I started with Tracy. She's the one that saved my life when I was at Bridgton Hospital, so sick and paralyzed. And she never gave up on me. So to this day, I've met a few other people. I'm looking at one now, Dan and Teresa, and all these people that still call me. Lonnie Martin is coming, and he's amazing. I've known him since I was 18 years old. Yes, I mean, to be here is just, it is such a blessing. And addiction it's cruel, and it never stops. So finding purpose is the only thing that worked for me, because for a long time I didn't feel like I had one. Especially when my son moved out on his own and I was left alone, like, what do I do? So I chose to drink, and I drank a lot. And I'm so glad that I'm here looking at where I was 5 years ago and just saying, amen, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, he's great. And believe me, prayer has been the best thing for me too, is giving my pain and all those things to God. You got to get rid of it. And staying strong, having people like Lonnie and Tracy and all these, my goddaughter Desiree is here, and David and Sue, like having that support is key too. So don't ever feel alone. If you feel like that, just call Tracy. I love you guys, I love you.
Hello everyone, my name is Paulie and I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. Thank you. Woo! I was just gonna ask you guys, I just wanted to have a moment of silence for those that we've lost and for the still second suffering. And don't worry if you don't know this prayer, but if you do know this prayer, I'd really like everyone to follow along with me. It's called the Serenity Prayer. So we'll just take a moment of silence. And the Serenity Prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Please. Thank you. No, thank you. It's an honor to be here today. Can everyone hear me all right? All right, cool. No, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'll try to deliver my experience, strength, and hope the best that I can. So, there's a lot of precursors to addiction. This is a few that I have. I'm a survivor of mental, physical, and sexual abuse from my father. He's dead now, thank God. Yeah. I watched, I grew up in a lot of abuse. I had to watch my mom be abused, my brothers. That was really hard. I also have a genetic disposition to this disease. As far back as I can trace, which goes all the way back to Scotland, there's at least one alcoholic per generation on my mom's side of the family, and I'm sure it runs on my dad's side too. But I was born with it. I was born with the disease of more, and I got no shut-off switch. I grew up poor. My mom did everything she could. My father didn't help us at all, so it was tough growing up. I had to grow up quickly. I learned at an early age to take care of my two brothers, and I like to think that's played a role in who I am today. I also self-harmed. I was bullied. I had suicidal and homicidal ideations, and I just didn't feel like I should be alive. I hurt in my heart. Around 20 years old, I started drinking. by 21, I got into drugs. My hobbies included alcohol, Adderall, Klonopin, hydrocodone, hydrocodone, LSD, mushrooms, Molly, Percocets, Vicodin, Vyvanse, Whippets, porn, and sex. And I accidentally did heroin. I was a busy man. I had stuff I needed to do. So by 21, I got into the drugs. It didn't take very long before I started mixing booze with the drugs. I survived. It's called a speedball. I had 4 of them, and it's basically when you mix uppers and downers. So I was mixing a lot of Adderall with alcohol. You know, Adderall's an upper, alcohol's a downer, and the result's a heart attack. And if that doesn't happen, there's drowning in your own vomit, or, you know. And I had a few of those things happen to me. I had people come up to me later on and say, "Do you remember what you did last night?" And I'll say, "No. You know, I had to roll you on your side." I'm like, "Well, thank you for doing that, but I wish you didn't." Shortly after I became 22, I quit the drugs, and I found a little meeting. It was a Narcotics Anonymous meeting at the time. I was recommended by my bartender, and that bartender actually ended up being my sponsor's daughter, and I'm forever grateful that I went into the bar that night and she asked me what's going on. I remember bursting out and I said, "I don't know if I'm gonna kill myself or kill somebody else, and I don't care which." "Well, it sounds like you're having a hard time." I was kind of having a hard time. I was a little stressed. And so they said, "You ever try out a meeting?" And I said, "What's a meeting? I don't work in an office or nothing, you know. I'm not in, like, I don't want to do a desk job." And they're like, no, you got the wrong idea. So I ended up going to NA. I ended up later going to AA. And just very briefly, it took me a year to get a week. It took me another year to get a year. I started dating my boss. That's not a good idea. I don't recommend it. When that didn't go well, work started not going well. And it wasn't very long after I went back out for 3 years. And, you know, I had some good times in between all the bad times. There was a lot of bad times. I only showed people what I wanted them to see. And if they ever saw anything that I didn't want them to see, it was by accident. I don't know. It was a living hell. My liver was blown up. My kidneys were shot. They were infected, and you know. And I had a very brief suicide attempt, one of many. Another precursor to my addiction, you know. And right before I was gonna do what I was gonna do, I had a moment of hesitation, and today I like to call it divine intervention. I hesitated, and I looked down. And my cat, her name's Raven, she's a good girl. She was looking right up at me, you know, and she just kind of meowed a little bit. And I know she can't talk English, and I know I can't read a cat's mind, but I was pretty sure she was talking to me in English, and she said, "Don't do it." So that scared me out of it for about a week, and I ended up calling my old sponsor, and they're a tough old bird. They taught me a lot. And I called them up. This is about 3 years of not talking to them. They had every right to tell me to shove it, and they just said, "What's going on?" And I told them what was going on. I tried to kill myself. My drinking's gotten real bad again. I don't want to get back into the drugs, but this is a lot. And I told them, I was like, I don't know what to do, and they said, "You do know what to do." So I asked him, "Will you be my sponsor again?" Like a dog. I'm like a dog with his tail tucked between his legs. And they said the same thing to me that they said the first time around. "What are you willing to do?" And before I could even think about it, I said, "Anything." "Well, you can't suck it back in. You're going to be going to a meeting with me this week, and we're getting you back into the program." So, long story short, I started going back to meetings. I got various home groups. I'm a member of various groups of sobriety and 12-step fellowship. I got my old sponsor back. I started working on the 12 steps. I got service positions in meetings. I've been the coffee maker. I've been the chip master. Pretty soon I'll be the greeter. They tell you it's good for you. I didn't think so at the time. I already had a job. I didn't want another one. But I got a service position, and I do service outside of meetings. That's helping your neighbor, being of service to other people, not being a tornado of chaos. I got into prayer. I don't know who that last lady was. I don't remember your name, but she mentioned prayer, and I really like that. Prayed away. I got into prayer. I got into meditation. I started working with newcomers. I sponsor and am available to sponsor others. I set up meetings. I do outreach in the community with my sister in recovery, and I'll keep her anonymous, but she's here tonight, and I just want to say thank you and I love you. Overall, I just try to be a kind and compassionate person. When I was drinking and drugging, I was not a kind and compassionate person. I was full of resentment, fear, self-loathing, anger, any bad word you want to use, I was feeling it. And I would use any kind of excuse to use and to booze. Because of all of this, I've been able to maintain sobriety one day at a time. I've been free from alcohol for 2 years and what's the date today? 13th. The 15th I'll have 2 years and 4 months. Thank you. Please. I don't deserve the credit. My sponsor deserves the credit. I appreciate it. No, I don't want my ego blown up. Please, I'll go back out. I've been able to maintain sobriety one day at a time for 2 years and 4 months from alcohol, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I think it's been like 8 years for drugs. That I kind of just quit, but the steps really, and the meeting, just all the stuff I've talked about today and all the stuff you're going to hear about, I'm a firm believer that is the way out. Recovery's possible. I've lost 3 friends this year to their disease, and it's really hard. At the root of everything, we're good people. I just feel like I'm a half-empty person. I got to fill that with something. And if I'm not filling it with good stuff, I'm going to be filling it with bad stuff. So So I don't know. So, I'm just happy to be here today. I got my mom, my aunt, my neighbor Cindy, Jim, Angela, everybody's here. I love everybody here, and thank you for having me.
Recovery is very near and dear to my heart. 7 years ago, I lost my brother to alcoholism and had to pull the plug. I also lost my grandfather and 3 cousins to overdoses. So I currently have some family members who are actively using and are not in recovery and don't want to be. So for everyone here who is in recovery, I applaud you. Keep going. You guys are doing great, and your families want you to keep going. So for me, I have a different type of recovery. As Tracy said, at 29, I had my first spine surgery. I kept herniating my discs. And over the next 5 years, I had a total of 5 spine surgeries. And at no point did the doctors ever think to say, we should do physical therapy, we should do anything other than just give you drugs. And I know a lot of the drugs you guys are talking about because I was prescribed them. My doctors were my drug pushers. I was on Opana, I was on Oxalgo, I was on Percocet, I was on fentanyl, I was on hydrocodone, I was on muscle relaxants, I was on Ambien, all at the same time. And there are at least 2 years of my life I don't remember because I was drugged. Luckily, I was able to quit them cold turkey, and I know not many people do. However, I had a walker. I graduated to a cane. I was out of work for over 5 years. And like Tracy said, they told me I would never work again, to just go on disability. And by that time, I was in my early 30s. And I believed them. I was afraid of being in pain, so I kept taking the meds. I kept doing what the doctor said, and what the doctor said was just lay in bed and do nothing. So I did. I had a very small life. I thought that the TV was my only escape, so I watched hours. And I was married to a very abusive alcoholic, and I thought that's what I deserved because I was broken, and I didn't love myself, and I had no hope. And like many other people have shared, when you lose hope, you really don't have anything. And so I did attempt to commit suicide, and luckily I survived. And while I was lying in bed and in pain, I thought there has to be more than this. And I got a phone call one day that my best friend was dying of breast cancer. And I was living in Florida at the time. They asked me to fly up and be with her. So I did. And as I was there with my cane and my pain meds, realizing they had me on all the same drugs as my friend dying of cancer was on, something kind of clicked like, this just doesn't seem right. And she was fighting for every last moment and every second she could have. And because I was up here with her at the end, I wasn't able to get my pain meds because it was out of state. So that's when I had to quit cold turkey. But that's also when I decided I didn't want to use a cane anymore, and I didn't want to be stuck in bed, because even though I was in pain, I was still here and I was still breathing. So I got rid of the cane. I still walked very slowly. I still wasn't working. I went back to my abusive alcoholic husband and stayed there for another year until he pulled a gun on me. And that's when I realized this is not life. I'm not living. And I don't want it to go on like this anymore. So I packed up my car and drove to Maine without a plan, without anywhere to go. And I had some lovely friends take me in. And I started working. I eventually started weaning off of pain meds. Well, not just the pain meds. I'd already been off of those. I was all the other prescriptions they had put me on, like the Ambien, like 3 different antidepressants, the anti-anxiety meds. And I realized that I was missing out on so much but I was still so afraid to be in pain that I listened to the doctor said I couldn't swim. I couldn't walk more than a quarter of a mile. I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds. I would never hike again. I would never bike again. And I was okay with that because at least I was on my own and I was working again. And about 3 years ago, I moved here to Bridgton, and I moved to a second floor apartment. And I was really, really worried because I couldn't walk up and down stairs. When I woke up from my last surgery, they cut a nerve in my leg, so I can't feel most of my left leg. So I was constantly afraid of falling. I was afraid of having to have more surgeries, of being in that wheelchair again. And I got sick of being afraid. So I just decided to do it anyway, just walk up and down the stairs. I went really slow and I'd hold the railing like a 90-year-old woman. And then I started walking up Pondicherry just 10 minutes a day. And I could do it. And I was like, wait, they said I couldn't do it. Let me walk a little bit more. And then next thing you know, I'm walking a mile and then 2 miles. And then about 2.5 years ago, I met my lovely boyfriend, who is a massage therapist. And he started asking me, like, what did they tell you you can't do? And that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you start strengthening these muscles, you should be able to do this stuff. And I was still really hesitant. I was like, no, they said I couldn't. They said I couldn't. He's like, well, you've already proven them wrong on a lot of things. You're not in a wheelchair. You're not still on medication. So why don't we just try? And so he got me to invest in a paddleboard. And I was really worried, like, I can't stand. I can't feel my feet. And he's like, well, if you curl your toes into the board, your brain will interact and tell your feet what to do. You don't need to feel it. Your body knows what to do. Just do it. So I did. And I started being able to stand up and paddleboard. And I was like, well, what else can I do? So I've always been a swimmer. And I hadn't swam in almost 20 years because of the spine surgeries. I have a fusion at my neck and a double fusion at my lower back. So my spine doesn't move like it used to. And I had it in my head, you have to do things a certain way. You have to do the crawl stroke. You have to do the breaststroke. So Adam one day was like, hey, babe, I want to swim across Highland Lake. Would you paddleboard and spot me while I'm swimming? And I was like, sure. And I'm watching him, and he's doing the side stroke and the backstroke. And that's when it clicked. Wait, I don't have to do it one way. I can swim any way that feels comfortable. I can still do these things, just not the way I thought I had to do them. So the next thing you know, I'm swimming a mile. And then we're like, well, what next? And I love hiking, but I haven't hiked since I was 20. So we started hiking. We did Baldpate, we did Pleasant Mountain. Then we did a backpacking trip in the Bigelows. So that was 5 peaks, 2 days overnight, carrying about 30 pounds on my back. And then we're like, okay, what other things are on the list? So I started biking. And my longest bike so far has been 25.5 miles on gravel trails. Thank you. And then this year, one of the last things they told me I couldn't do was whitewater rafting. And so I have gone whitewater rafting twice this year with no problems. I also have started running. I've been running for 5 months now. I run over in Pondicherry at least 3 times a week. I've done a 5K. And the most recent thing I've done that I'm really proud of is last week, we paddled the Allagash. We canoed 93 miles and did 6 days. And I carried a canoe and all the gear 3/4 of a mile around a waterfall. And I'm not in pain. And I am living my fullest life. And what I really want to share is that, one, you are your own limitation. What people tell you, you don't have to believe. If they tell you you are this, you are broken, you are disabled, you are depressed, you are not worthy, you don't have to believe that. It's what you believe about yourself. So if you believe that you can do it, it may take a while, but you can. And the other thing is, don't be afraid of pain, because that's what kept me in bed for so long. I was so afraid of hurting. And the ironic thing was, I was hurting every day no matter what. And now, I might get a little ache and pain here and there, but I'm not in excruciating pain. And I'm having these amazing adventures and doing things I had only dreamed of. And here I am, 47 years old, and I was supposed to be in a wheelchair by now. I was supposed to be on medications for the rest of my life. And now I'm like, okay, what next? What can we do next? And there are so many people out there who I know have been told, you can't do this. You know, you shouldn't do this. You're not able to. And I want to say, if I can do it, honestly, anyone can do it. I was the girl that would lie in bed for 18 hours a day watching Netflix. And I got up to 240 pounds, was told, oh, you're never going to lose the weight. You can't exercise. And I've lost the weight. I'm exercising every day. And I really am just so grateful that I didn't believe the narrative that I was given. And I encourage everyone, don't be afraid of pain. And my friend Will had said, the difference between adversity and adventure is attitude. So I choose to have adventures every day instead of dealing with adversity every day. And I encourage you guys to do the same.
My name's Lonnie Martin. I am a man in long-term recovery and very proud and honored to be here. I come to you today with the attitude of gratitude because that's all I live my life by. My journey started out about 25 years ago. I'm a cancer survivor, and I had stage 4 kidney cancer, and they provided me a massive amount of opiates when I got out of the hospital. And unfortunately, I really abused them immensely. And that started a very difficult past for me. I was married at the time to a wonderful lady, and I had a baby at home, and it was very difficult. So I was also a firefighter for an extended period of time and hid my addiction very well. And unfortunately, it certainly caught up with me in a very quick manner when I started making very bad decisions and treating the people that I love like they meant nothing to me. And I learned a very valuable lesson at that time about how to put myself first. So I became homeless. And I was living next to a fence in South Portland, and I was dating a beautiful lady at that time, and I knew that this lady was the one, but I kept putting myself first. And this lady, who I admired very much, said that she loved herself more than she could love me at that time, and dumped me like a hot potato. And I couldn't blame her, and that's the kind of lady I wanted to be around, because I already destroyed one relationship. You know, my wife divorced me, didn't want anything to do with me, and that was on me. And it took me a long time to figure that out. You know, the one thing that I've realized about recovery is you got to own your own stuff. If you don't own your own stuff, nobody's going to own it for you. And if they own it for you, it's going to continue to bring you right back out. And that's the one thing that I've learned more in recovery than anything else. So my sobriety date is 1123. So I'm just about 1,000 days of sobriety now. And it's only because of the grace of God. It has nothing to do with me. So I became homeless. I was living next to a fence in South Portland, Maine. And it was New Year's Eve. I did my last drink and my last drug around 10 o'clock. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was this big, big, beautiful moon. And I looked at it and said, God, take me, because I can't do this anymore, because I was just tired. I was tired of being tired. I was tired of being broken. I was tired of just life. And I called 911. A very dear friend who worked for the ambulance service for South Portland came over, and he said, are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. Now, I said that I was ready many, many times before because I've gone to more detox centers and more rehabs all up the coast. Not recommend that you go to rehab in South Beach, Florida. I did it. I love that place so much. I did it twice in 3 months, okay? Because it was warm and I wanted to be out of here because it was cold up here. I did it for all the wrong reasons. But when I decided to do it this time, I decided to do it for the right reasons. It was for me. It wasn't for anybody. It wasn't for a relationship. It wasn't for my kids to talk to me. It wasn't to get the law off my back, even though they were on my back. It was for me. And I went to the hospital. I spent 17 days in the hospital. And then I did something that I never, ever thought that I would ever do. I asked MAR, which is Maine Association for Recovery Residents, I asked them for a scholarship so I could get into a sober house. Because I really, really wanted this opportunity to strive and thrive the way everybody told me that it's possible. See, I didn't believe people in recovery because I thought they were all fake. You see the people in smiles, and it was like, there's no way you could be happy. You're not drinking and drugging. Okay, I'm happy. Look at me. Well, the fact was that I was broken. I looked okay from the outside, but on the inside, I was a shattered mirror. My soul, my heart, my morals, my ethics, my character, everything was shattered. And through being in recovery, I've realized to put all these little pieces together and make this beautiful mosaic. And now I call my insides a mosaic. And my mosaic is pretty solid. It's got a lot of glue on it. And it's because of the friends that I've created and the people that I've met in recovery. Randy Beard is just really one of my idols. I love the guy immensely. He is absolutely one of my thriving points to my success is to watch that man grow on a regular basis. It's incredible. So I got the scholarship. I went to a sober house and I stayed there for about 8.5 months. About 4 months into this thing, I was working because I got a get well job because that's what people told me to do. And the only thing that I could really do at this point was just to listen to someone because everything that I thought, I made a mess out of. So at 51 years old, 52 years old, I realized that I really needed to listen to someone for a change because I wasn't good at listening. And I'm like, okay, you probably know a little bit more than I do, so I'm going to listen to you. So I went to a sober house and I was in an apartment with 5 other guys, and they were all about my age, and I had restrictions, right? Like, I couldn't be out after 10 o'clock at night. And I was okay with that because I felt that if I was out after 10 o'clock at night, that means I was doing something wrong anyways, right? Facts. And I had to have these things called drug tests, which held me accountable because that means I couldn't do it or I couldn't have this place to live. Well, I'm proud to say that everybody in my sober apartment is still sober today, which is incredible. I made such a connection with those guys. Besides one guy relapsed, and what did he do? He called all 4 of us and said, I relapsed and I need help. Because that's the bond that we had as a sober house, that we could actually depend on each other. No judgment. I didn't want to be judged, right? I wanted grace and I wanted kindness for once. Because every time when I was out there, people kept pointing the finger at me. And what it did was it made me broken even more. So what I did was when he called us up, I'm like, hey, you know something? I'm going to get you into a recovery residence. That guy's now like 16 months sober. He's actually a manager of a sober house now. And the rest of them, we still talk on a regular basis. You know, that lady, that beautiful, beautiful lady that dumped me like a hot potato, like I said before, after 4 months, I asked her, I said, can we just be friends? And she doesn't remember this, but she said, I don't even really like you. I'm not quite sure I could be your friend. Well, guess what? We got married New Year's Eve, okay? She's right there. She also works in recovery, okay? And I have to tell you, the reason why I have this beautiful lady in my life and the beautiful people in my life is because I put myself first. And what I mean by putting myself first is I put my recovery first. Because if I put myself first, that means that I'm going to put everybody in my life that I love so much, I'm not going to put them last, right? So when they talk to me, I'm actually going to listen to them. When they have suggestions, I'm actually going to take them. When they want to go do something or they need something, I can actually be there for them now, because I was so greedy that I couldn't be there for someone unless I wanted something from them. And today I can actually do that. So when I got about a year sober, I was working at a get well job because they told me that's what I had to do. And if you know me, you know that the only nail that I could ever bang is my thumbnail. So I got a construction job making windows. Hilarious. And I did that job for a year because that's what they told me. Don't make any big changes for a year. So I stayed in the sober house for 8.5 months, got my solid ground there, and I got my get well job, and I stayed there for a year. And after a year, I decided that I wanted to do something more because I kept going to all these events with my fiance at this point, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really love being around these people. They're really cool people. Why? Because they don't look at people any way than just to love them. I saw so much love, compassion being at events. I just wanted to be part of it. So I applied to a bunch of jobs, and I got hired because of everybody I know. I got hired at most of them. And I decided to work for Better Life Partners, and we help people with substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, and behavioral health. And the reason why I chose this particular company is because they're the now factor. When someone needs help, they'll do an intake, and they will help people right at that moment. And I love that because that's what I needed. I needed it when I was ready for it, you know? And I started doing outreach, so I started going to the homeless shelter. Now, when I was in my old life, when I saw a homeless person, I used to really, really, really cast shadow and doubt and have this negative thought on them. By being in recovery and teaching, being taught the stuff that I was taught, what I've learned is to love these people. And I absolutely adore homeless people now. I really do. They're very near and dear to my heart. So I started a program at HSC, which is Homeless Service Centers. I started bringing a table in there every single Monday from 7 to 10 o'clock. And I used to go in there and help people every single week. And then I would go to encampments, and I'd go to encampments in Biddeford and Sanford and Portland just to help people and let them know that, guess what? I love you. Because that might be the thing that they need to hear at that moment, right? I love you, and I care for you. Okay, not get off my sidewalk, you don't look good, you need help, and you're a bum. That's not who I am today. That's who I was, but that's not who I am today. So I started doing that, and then I became the lead for the state for Better Life Partners. So now I got to go around and do it for the whole state, which was just awesome. And then because of all the hard work that I've been doing, I became partner manager for Better Life Partners for the state of Maine. And now I work with all the Department of Corrections. I work with hospitals. I work with recovery centers. I do all of the stuff, so I don't really get to events much anymore. And it really breaks my heart because this is where I started. And I have the life today that crazy big book, that foolish big book that talks about, right? This foolish big book. I don't even understand it. I was just reading it before, but then all of a sudden I really started to understand it. And I realized that all the promises that they talked about in that big book, I'm experiencing today. You know, I do have a beautiful life. I do have a good job. I do have my wife. I do have amazing, incredible friends and a massive amount of acquaintances. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share with you a little quick story before I end up, because this shows my growth, but it also shows about, like, recovery, right? Because we're all here for hope today, right? We're not here for anything but just to be around our buddies and just to share hope. That's all we are, right? We're very hopeful people. So when I was a kid, my mom sold my dog. My mom was an addict. And my dog, Randy, he was a golden retriever. And I get emotional every time I talk about it. But he was my dog. He was my buddy, right? That was the only thing that I ever had as a kid was my dog. And I would get up in the morning, there'd be nobody at home, and I would take my dog and I'd go to the bus station or the bus, and I'd get the bus, and then Randy would run home and sit on the porch. And I don't know how the heck that happened, but every single day when I got off that bus, Randy was at that bus stop. And we're talking Cambridge, Massachusetts. We're not talking a little town, okay? And I didn't live on the Harvard side of Cambridge, just to let you know, okay? So when I got home one day, my dog was gone. And I found out my mom sold him and did drugs with the money. And it absolutely destroyed me. But because I've worked the steps of AA, and because I've tried to fix all of the internal brokenness in me by putting this beautiful mosaic together, my wife and I now have a 9-week-old puppy. Okay, he's right over there. He's been with me most of the time since I got him. You know, his name's Cooper. And the reason why I talk about Cooper is because that's recovery. Getting stuff back, right? Believing in yourself enough that you can continue to push forward as long as you don't drink and drug. You know, if your butt falls off, pick it up and get to a meeting, right? If you're having a tough time, call someone in recovery, okay? There are many, many times that I've called people in recovery, not to air out my dirty laundry, but just to hear their voice and say, I love you, okay? Every single time I call my friends like Randy, okay, the last thing him and I say to each other is, I love you. You know, that's what recovery is, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
So a quote is, the goal isn't to be sober, it's to love yourself so much that you don't want a drink. I really had to think about that many days. As I thought about what to say today, I was inspired by a journal prompt. If anybody's gone through Lake Region Recovery, they like you to do these journal exercises. At first, I was kind of like, oh, God, you know, but as I worked through them, I really, really enjoyed them. And they helped me to bring up some positive things about life and about experiences that I've had, and also negative ones, too. So it was number 32. And number 32 prompt was, how have you changed in the past year? And so I really dug deep, honestly. And a year ago, I was lost. I was lonely. I was self-isolated due to my alcoholism. I was unhealthy, emotionally, physically, mentally. I was passionless. I had very low self-esteem. I was lying to myself, as we all do. I was very disconnected. I was drunk. I was trying to escape the tremendous loss of my husband of 30 years. I was stuck. I was embarrassed, and I was ashamed. I'd like to share a quote and an excerpt from the book 48 Whispers, which is written and photographed by Kevin Hancock. That book was very influential in a lot of my recovery journey. So one of the quotes that he has, or the kind of the whispers that he has, it's called, "Learn to embrace the art of healing." And he says, quote, "First, look inward where the negative energy of all past injuries and injustice resides. Healing demands a willingness to journey within and stare vulnerably into the darkest corners of our past experiences. What is the true nature of my discomfort? What are the seeds of its origin? Am I ready to heal, or has my narrative become too attached to the wound itself?" So today, September 13th, I am 364 days sober. I know I'm crying, but it's like, this is true. I'm energized and I'm focused. I'm happy. I'm healthy, emotionally, physically. I'm content. I'm confident. I love myself for the first time in my life. I'm trying new hobbies, such as line dancing and stained glass and doing all kinds of stuff that I never thought I would ever do. And I'm truly embracing sobriety. I truly have so much to be grateful for, past and present. Although I suffered a great loss, I had true love for 30 years, and I am grateful for that every day. My future is very bright, and I'm It's so bright I gotta wear shades. Because the sun never sets in the land of the cool, right? I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for the undying and unconditional love of my daughters, Shannon and Megan. Many friends, you know who you are. I could have a list that would go on forever. Lake Region Recovery Center. I mean, let's give a round for them. They are amazing. And the birth of my first grandchild. I am officially a tutu, which is the Hawaiian word for grandmother. So my youngest daughter lives in Hawaii, so I figured I'd bring that in there, hence the tutus. My deepest gratitude to you all. I can't thank you enough. In the past year, I've allowed myself to embrace resilience, pride. I was talking to my friend on my way here today, and I said, this is the first time in my life I've actually, honestly, been proud of myself. I've given myself grace, forgiveness, and sobriety. And I truly am the luckiest girl in the world. I say that all the time. So hence the wings. I feel like a butterfly emerging from a dark cocoon of grief and alcohol addiction. And there's not one drink in this world that will make me feel as great as I feel today. And every day, really. I'm ready to fly and live my best sober life. So embrace and have a great day, everyone.
Hello, everybody. My name's Josh. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and addict. My story starts as far back as I can remember, about 4 years old. My mom and dad was going through a divorce, and my dad was an avid biker. I mean, the apple didn't fall too far. But they were into bad things. Drugs were always accessible. People coming and going. Not a good situation. Abuse. I watched my mother endure some abuse. My mom met a new guy probably when I was like 5. And she started seeing him, and after a while, she moved in with him. And I didn't like the idea of new brothers and sisters and new authority in my life. So I started rebelling, and I started acting out, seeking attention in all the wrong areas in life, which in turn got me abused and treated pretty badly. I'll just leave it at that. And so I went to the cops when I was like 6 or 7, and they took me out of the home. I went through, I can't really remember how long it was, but anyway, they put me back in my parents' care after so long. And I stayed on rebelling all through school. My mom couldn't keep me in school. I was out the window as soon as my bedroom door shut. I was out hanging with the older crowd. All my older brothers and sisters, plus my stepbrothers and sisters, were all older than me by about 5 years. So when I was in middle school, they was in high school, and I wanted to do the high school things. So I did. And I always had an attitude that I wanted to do everything better than everybody. Whether it be drinking, whether it be smoking pot, whether it be smoking crack, whatever it was. I needed to do more, stay up longer, go harder. And then the cops came along, and I thought fighting them was fun, so that got me in jail. I went to jail the first time when I was 18 years old. I figured if I moved to Georgia, where my father was living, that would get me out of trouble. So I moved down there. I got down there and I found more drugs that my father was doing. I quickly got addicted to crystal meth. I met some people and I started dealing it, and I did that better than everybody else until the cops came along. So I did my first 5-year stint in prison in Georgia. I knew nobody. I was a minority. I was a Yankee. There was 3 strikes against me. So it was down there, so it was a lot of fighting, pecking orders and all that. But I got out and decided again I would move away from the problem. I would come back to Maine and everything would go away. So I transferred my probation here, and I got here and it was just one big welcome home party. And I drank and did drugs and tormented the town and the people, and broke all my trust and friendships that I did have. Took advantage of everybody to the point that nobody wanted me around. And I went to prison here in Maine for driving, I think in 2007. I went and did my first year in prison. I got out, I was out 3 months, and the DEA kicked my door in, and I got busted for drugs. So I went back to prison. And Maine State Prison, after the second time, had become my second home in my toxic thinking. Those people were my friends. That's where my loyalty lied. And so every time that I went back thereafter, or even county jail, it was cool to me. I knew everybody. I knew all the guards, and I thought that was my people. And so I didn't mind going back, because I'd come out and I'd live a toxic lifestyle until I got caught for something, usually driving, and I'd go get a break at jail. Well, in 2019, my sobriety date is October 2nd, 2019. 2019, I got pulled over for driving again, and it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think I was on my 3rd bottle of cinnamon whiskey that day, and the cop came to the window, and I was just laughing, like I wasn't a habitual violator, like I wasn't going back to prison or something. Like, it was just another day. And he didn't think it was so funny. And he, as a matter of fact, he told me that. He's like, dude, you're 39 years old. This ain't funny anymore. So I was like, oh, well, let's just talk about this. And he's like, no, there's no talking, dude. You're going to jail. So I'm like, okay. So I'll take a step back to 2015 when I was in prison, is when I found out I had liver problems. My liver was failing, and I wouldn't listen to the doctors like anybody else. So when I was detoxing in 2019, it was a lot worse than any other time. My liver was shut down. I lost considerable amount of weight. I had hepatitis C, which I now got rid of, thank God, by the grace of God. And so all that stuff piled up. I was really, really sick. And they put me in a cell in the county jail. And that very night, I started seeing it. When the lights went out, I started seeing things. And I was trying to fight everybody in the jail, which is per usual for me. But so they took me out, put me in a holding cell, and for the next 8 days, I hallucinated. I thought there was bats coming out of the cameras in the holding cells. I thought all the police were out to get me. I thought my pant seams, my inseams was tapped, and they were listening to me talk to myself in there. They took me back and forth to the emergency room to the point that they gave me a spinal tap to find out what drugs I was on. And I wasn't on anything but alcohol. The doctors tried to give me whatever medicine they can to keep your blood pressure down. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, I feel like that made it worse, but I was so not with it that I wouldn't have known anyway. The 8th day rolled around, and I finally, so my hallucinating kept me up So the lack of sleep made me hallucinate more, if that makes sense. And when I finally got to the point that I couldn't stay awake any longer, I laid down for 4 hours, and that's when I start remembering things again. And that was on the 8th day. And they finally got me in to see the judge for the first time on the 8th day. So when I went in there, I don't know why, but for the first time in my reckless career, they did not give me bail. Every other time they let me bail out. Sometimes cheap, sometimes expensive, but this time they wanted rehab. And I argued it in court. I'm like, I don't need rehab. I don't need rehab. But so I went to St. Francis House in Auburn after sitting at the county jail for 45 days, and the place saved my life. I got there, intentions to smoke, and that's all I really wanted to do at the time. I vaped for like a week, and something clicked, and I had a roommate that was leaving, and I asked him, I said, does this work? And he giggled at me, and he's like, if you want it to. And that's all he said, and at that time, it made no sense to me. But, so that night, I prayed for the first time in my life. And I asked God if he was real to show me something. I went to bed. I slept like a rock. I got up the next morning. I felt rejuvenated. And as I walked down the stairs to the rehab, I was working in the kitchen with a great man in Christian named Doug. A lot of people may know him. When we had a snowstorm that night, and as I was coming down the stairs and looking out the kitchen window, there was a big flash of light. And from that point on, my life changed. I walked into the kitchen and I looked at this man and I said, wow, this God stuff really does work, doesn't it? And he laughed at me. And I'm like, what's this Christian laughing at me for? I'm talking about God, right? So we went about our day and, small talk. And I went to my classes and I started paying attention. That very day, I became interested in what people were saying, the counselors were saying. I went to the counselors on my own after classes, asking questions. I just dug both feet in. And we was doing meetings every day. I got a sponsor that I hooked up for when I got out. So the night before I was leaving St. Francis House, my grandmother died. I got a phone call at the rehab that my grandmother died. And of course I went back to old ways, trying to use that as an excuse to get out, but that didn't work. And I had to go back to the county jail, which I wasn't planning on doing. So that was real heavy. And once I got back to the county jail, it was only like 4 or 5 days. Got some paperwork signed, and I was out the door. And I tell you what, once I got out, I posted on Facebook for everybody just to, if they didn't have any good intentions, to stay away from me. And God must have did some work because everybody disappeared, per usual. So, that's my story. Today, I'm almost 6 years sober. I own a construction company. I'm the proud president of Last Chance Motorcycle Club. I just keep doing the work. Every day I get up, gratitude list, and a drive to not lose. And it's gotten me this far. Thank you, guys.
It's a different story that I've heard from other people today, but I never lived anywhere since the age of 18 for more than 2 or 3 years, going around the world, living around the world, and I came into this area and it just stuck. So I've been here for 13 years now, and that's really when the journey started to not do what I was doing and not convince myself that it was okay. But what I did work out is that it's okay not to be okay, because once I got that in my head, it was a different direction to take to make things happen. So it was a lot of, they call it PTSD, but I don't believe it's a disorder. I just think it's post-traumatic stress. I don't think I have a disorder. I'm just prone to drink. And it was just a tough one. It was a monkey on my back. Any reason, any excuse, lots of lies, because it helps. And nobody else can work out that you're lying. Not. So it was flashbacks and memories through some difficult sleeping periods. My second bunch of combat was in Iraq in Desert Storm, and things were happening there that I really hope nobody gets to see. And of course then you bury it for a long time, and it just eventually comes back to bite you. And so there was that one. We did the Falkland Islands, Kosovo, which was very messy, and the border between Belize and Guatemala, and that was just not nice. And a lot of bad things happened, all in the name of peace, apparently. So 20 years after that, it started. I couldn't sleep. It was very difficult to get any rest, and then you just start drinking yourself to sleep, and it's just this enormous circle of doom and gloom. But there's one thing that will help you, and that's in a bottle. Well, that doesn't go too well. I went in the hospital, flatlined. They brought me round, and I started to think about it. And what I did is just decide that nobody could tell me how to do this, but I had to be an advocate for myself and work it out for myself. And with nobody telling me what to do, and I'm pretty stubborn, then I was deciding what I'm going to do to get out of this rut. And gradually, slowly it went. I still think about it on occasion, but it's left my life. It was taking over my life. Going back to some of the other speakers, they say their animals help them. I remember being completely off my chops, and it was late at night, and I had a big drink in front of me, and I was out of it. And my little puppy, she's a little girl called Dave, she was looking at me and saying, well, who's going to feed me tomorrow, as I'm just playing with a .38 Magnum. So I was going to off myself, and the dog stopped me. So it is that companionship, and I think with the animals, there is absolutely no way that they will judge you. They're your best friend, they're super loyal, and so I great thanks for that. More recently, just across the road from my store, I found LRC, and I volunteer there now. I'm 7 years out of the bucket. Never touched a drink in 7 years, and hopefully I never will. I don't think I want to anymore, which is a good thing. I've decided I don't want to, and so now I spend some of my time volunteering, and I find that gives me an awful lot of support in itself, because while I'm helping some other people, I do some self-reflection, and that's really helpful. So I won't go on too long, just to say that I did come to the USA. I was running away. I've been here 13 years. I'm now a citizen, and I've come to take my country back one wife at a time. And I've only got to 2 so far, so thank you very much.